Hello, welcome back to another painting tutorial. Alright, we're doing the Sorcerer from Trench Crusade. Going with like a maroon wash for all that skin tone, just to start off. And then I'll also hit those guts as well. This one's a fun one, because I started messing around with a few other techniques. Like using super glue, not to hold this piece together, but as a barrier to be able to start working between layers. You know, when you start using very abrasive material, like materials, you start scratching off paint as you're trying to get certain effects. Like when you're using enamels, it'll start eating away at the paints that are underneath that you're trying to do. Or if you're just scraping a lot with a brush, it'll start lifting that. But putting super glue down kind of creates a barrier where whatever's underneath that super glue doesn't get affected at all, and you're able to add effects on top of it, or let an effect be the bottom that shines through. You know, it's like working in layers. You're kind of locking layers. So I decided to give that a try on this model later on, and I think it came out pretty well. So I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, now we're hitting some of that, those flames that are on that sword, and on the head, back of the neck. This is a yellow lake that I usually use, you know. I use a very simple palette, and I do a lot of mixing. Update, I finally got a multi-camera situation going on, so after this video going forward, you'll start getting footage of my palette and how you'll actually be able to see me mix my colors rather than try to explain it, you know. Sadly, I couldn't get it all set up for this video, so but that's how it's going to be going forward, you know, because I know that's like one of the I don't want to say criticisms, but what people are saying they want to see more of. They want to see the mixing process. Alright, here, just warm white with a little bit of that yellow deep lake ochre. Just a tad bit, you know, I'm just trying to find where all those areas are going to be, like the raised area, just trying to find those forms, you know. Not really a whole lot of mixing going on, just almost road mapping. You know, just trying to highlight all those serrations in the muscle or the form of those ribs on the chest and then the rib cage. This was one of the first models that I printed when I got a 3D printer, and I was blown away by the detail that I got out of this thing. Like, you could see all of its teeth, which is crazy that something can capture such small details like that. You know, and at this point I'm still working very thin, you know. This is all the same color, but obviously because I'm starting to hit those areas that are still dark from the zenithal, you know, it looks like I'm putting down a different color, but I'm not. It's just thin, so it's not using all that underlining to brighten up. Alright, here I'm just laying down a little bit of that orange. So it's a mixture of that deep lake red, a little bit of that lake yellow, ochre, and a tad bit of white just to brighten it up. And it kind of desaturates it a little bit. It was a little too saturated. You know, what I'm doing with this orange is I'm hitting all the tops where I think that it's gonna start catching the light from the flames, you know. I don't want to put yellow you know, because I'm just thinking, how is that flame gonna react to the material? You know, it's gonna be a red robe, so it's not gonna be yellow. It's gonna start pushing it towards orange wherever that yellow is starting to, I guess, make contact as far as being a light source to that material. Right, and this is kind of like what I do a lot, you know, I jump around, you know, so I don't focus on just the skin, and I don't do anything else until the skin's done, you know, and I don't do the robe, and I don't do anything else until that robe's done. No, it's like, you know, with oils, because, you know, you got to give it time to set, you got to get it time to start drying, you know, depending on how much medium, like mineral spirits or something you're using, you got to give it time, you know, so I jump back and forth. Sometimes I have more than one model I'm working on at a time. You know, I have a little stand where I have tacked onto different platforms, like 3 or 4 models, and I just switch in between them, you know, as I work. So that's also kind of why it takes so long to get one of these videos out. Well, there's multiple reasons why it takes so long to get these videos out. One, I'm working at I wouldn't say it takes me any longer to complete a particular model, but while some might work on one model at a time, I'm working on 5, 6, 7 models at a time, and they all get finished roughly at the same time. But also, I mean, if I'm just going on a tangent here, I told myself, don't I'm only doing this thing because like I'd be doing it anyways. So I told myself, okay, I'm doing this hobby thing, painting miniatures, playing board games, tabletop games. I'm just gonna do it when I do it, but then I'm just gonna hit record, you know. I don't want it to get in the way, you know. I don't want this whole YouTube thing getting in the way of me and other things that are important to me, like my relationship, you know. And even the other day I was thinking, okay, I want to sit down, I really want to get this video in particular, I want to get it done, I want to do the voiceover, create the thumbnail. But then you know, my partner, she said, hey, you want to watch a movie tonight? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I put off, you know, working on this video, because if I didn't hit record and I was planning on just working on this miniature, would have I taken the day off from hobbying to watch a movie with her? Of course I would, you know. My hobby is not my life, you know. Anyways, that was just a side tangent, I guess, like a little philosophy in life. All right, now I'm hitting some like that deep lake red with, again, that deep lake yellow, just trying to get those orange tones, you know. So I'm starting to work on, as the flame starts moving away from the source of where it's starting, it starts teetering towards the orange and the reds, you know. So I'm just finding all those little areas where it's moving towards red, like the tips of the hair here. I call it hair, I guess. I guess it's this miniature's hair is fire. So yeah, the tips of the flames, you know, gonna push them more towards red, or maybe even like the maroons, or maybe put a little bit of speckle of black, you know, as it starts dissipating into smoke. Don't really want to hit any of those recesses though, because usually in the recesses of the fire shapes, that's like the hottest part. Wherever it's going to be hottest, it's going to be brightest, you know. So as it kind of moves further away from the source, or like where that, I guess, the flame is anchored, that's where I start using the oranges and the reds and the maroons, because that's where it's going to start. I mean, if this continued, or if this was if it was actually on fire, it would dissipate the smoke at those points. So any of those areas are kind of like bellowing away, you know, like those curvatures that are getting away from the model. That's I'm going to hit those areas with the reds, you know. And I want to keep it a little random too, you know. Don't want it to look, I guess, too orchestrated, you know, because fire is very random, you know, it's chaotic. So I might even hit it with a few like dry brushes just to get some chaotic brushwork in there. And a nice tip, if you ever feel like you pushed too much of those oranges, and then your fire is just an orange blob and it doesn't look like fire. Um, what you do is you take some white, maybe some white ink, or you take some white oil paint. You know, you thin it down and you let it just sink into all the recesses, all those deep recesses in the fire, and it becomes white again. And then you go in, and once it's dry, and you, again, really nice and thin, put yellow on top, maybe even like a yellow ink, and then it'll be really bright. And then you'll get, because you don't want to just put yellow on top of orange, you'll just get a lighter orange. So you got to go back to white and then work from there. You know, so don't think about putting white down as, I guess, putting white down. Think of it sometimes it's a reset. Like, okay, I don't like what's happening here. Let me reset that area. This video I also edited with DaVinci Resolve, and you know, the chopping and editing was simple. The color grading situation was beyond me. I couldn't figure out how to make I always use an adjustment layer to color grade, so it just does my whole timeline, but I couldn't figure out how to make an adjustment layer. So I had to literally, I just hit auto on it, and I messed up. I cut the whole thing up, so I have so many tiny little clips, and I had to hit auto on every single one of them. I couldn't tell you how many clips are on here. I mean, about halfway through right now, and I'm looking, and there's 65 little clips, because I chop these up a lot, you know. You don't want to see every brush stroke. I try not to speed up too much of the video. I do here and there. I think here I do in this video, the basing, I speed up. But I don't really like to speed up too much. Every once in a while. Try to keep the videos under 30 minutes. Anyway, this is turning more into a rambling video and less about painting. So back to the painting, I guess. Yeah, just hitting it. Now I'm going over a very thinned out deep lake red. So I wanted to mix in with that orange. The orange would seem a little too orangey, if that's a word, you know. So I want to keep the orange, still want it to shine through, but now I'm like just going into all the dark areas and the light areas with what I feel like is the color of this robe, but very smaller areas now than I was doing before with this orange, you know, and hitting it just on the tops of those legs, top of those folds. You know, we're now, as of today, we're mid-July, and my the Trench Crusade Kickstarter, you know, was supposed to be, you know, June, July. So any day now I should be getting my Beast Pledge. Part of me wishes I didn't even get it. I might sell it because my printer prints these out amazingly. But I don't know. It's like, okay, do I open it and then decide? Because obviously, whenever you open up something, it devalues it a little bit, you know. But if I just sell it without opening it, you know, I don't know. I could probably get at least what I paid for, maybe even a little bit more. But I don't know. I'm probably gonna keep it, but I'm tempted. I'm tempted to just print all of my Trench Crusade now that I have a printer. All right, now going in, it's a little brighter on the orange. And whenever I feel like I just put a little too much, you see like there's like a hard edge there, I get a dry clean brush and I feather it out just so, you know, it's not so abrupt, not like an abrupt end to the highlight.
Wish I could give you up, but you're my new favorite drug. Enter into my blood, run with my toxic love. Look how you make me happy. You take a hold of me. Wish I could give you up, but you're my new favorite drug. Enter into my blood, run with my toxic love. Look how you make me.
All right, and here's the part where I'm putting down the super glue. You know, I want to keep everything relatively bright underneath, or else, you know, it's gonna start muddling up as I put down effects. You know, if I keep it pretty on the higher end of the values, all my tints versus my shades, I'm just putting, and I'm not really too worried about getting the I guess the recesses or the underneath part of the arms with the super glue, because I'm actually not going to be hitting those too much with the enamel effects, right? But all the upper shoulder areas, all the areas that are light, that's probably where a lot of my work area is going to be anyways. All right, so now I'm starting to work on the enamels. Right here we're using, if I can pull it up right now, it is Icar the Dam. It's kind of like a bluish color, so I like to hit all I like to put it into like the little folds, like those little recesses of the muscles. You know, it's just like, it just accentuates those shadows a little better. Just let it hit those recesses and areas, especially in the face where like maybe the brushwork wasn't as precise. And then yeah, I get it all in the guts as well, in those folds, and they'll start giving me that contrast I need to make things pop. Alright, and here I'm using Corellia green. You know, I like using those green tones for the kind of accentuate, it kind of like naturalizes those skin tones, adding that Corellia green. And then here I use I just start dabbing isopropyl alcohol in all the raised areas, and that's just gonna do some interesting stuff to the pigments. It kind of disperses them, gets like some randomness and like how they flow around the model. Some blood effects. This is a Carrion Crimson. I get that in the guts as well, and then I kind of drip it down the robe area. For another day, something like that, I always think it'd be interesting to use the Carrion Crimson with like a tad bit of the resin water effects that come in a bottle, and that way you get like a shiny element to it, you know. Since I picked up this super glue technique, I'm like, now, you know, the gears are turning as far as like possibilities with like other mixed mediums. Alright, and here is the Decay of Death. Again, just hitting all the skin, like raised skin areas, but they kind of flow into some of the recesses too. I know you don't seem to want to do, like, this is kind of like a lighter enamel, but letting it get into those recesses a little bit, I don't know, it adds a cool, a neat effect. Naturalizes that skin, kind of makes it seem kind of like, I don't know, grotesque or kind of decay. There you go, and all that chalkiness that was happening prior to using these enamels is all but gone, you know. Now it looks very fleshy. Alright, and now for the base. Again, I don't buy bases. I have a 3D pen, and I make my own bases because I keep them really thin. And then when I put my basing on it, you know, I get the shape of the base. You know, it's a 50mm base. I have a template that I go by, but then I don't have to look at the black edge of the base. I like to submerge my minis like into my play area, into my terrain. You know, I don't know, it kind of sells it for me. There we go, and I'm doing like almost like a 3-tier base here. This miniature, it almost seems like he's floating above everybody, so I kind of want to make him float a little higher, so I put him on like multiple levels. There we go, and just speed up. I have a brushable surface primer. This just seals in everything, so if I were to use like my oil paints directly onto the corkboard or even onto the basing material that I use for this the brown basing, it would, like the oils they'll just get sucked into the sponginess, you know, so I have to seal it with the surface primer brush on, and then now I take some white paint and I just want to tie it into the base of the actual model, so I just hit it with a little bit of white just to seal it all in, you know, or bring it all together. And then I just start working with some earth tones. You don't want to just work with a bunch of browns. You'll see that I start using a lot of like cool colors, grays, almost like some blues a little bit here and there, because you know, the earth underneath you is not just brown all the time. I know at first glance it looks brown, but look at like rock formations. You'll see some interesting colors. So you want to keep that interest going. And these, you know, when I first started, I have a bunch of like sticks and stuff that I bought online. So stupid. I pay like $10 for a little bag of sticks, and I'm like, oh, I could have just picked these up. So don't buy like sticks and basing material. Go pick them up, put them in the oven, really low heat, kills all the, you know, any parasites or anything that you don't want to bring into your home. You just put it in the oven for a little bit, you know. But I gotta use this stuff, so I'm putting it on this model. But once all this stuff is gone, like, I don't plan on buying anymore. It seems silly, you know. But I was young. I was young in the hobby. I didn't know better. I thought there was the stuff that I'm working with here. It came from somewhere else. It didn't come from outside. We live and learn. All right, that's the video. That's everything. Here's the reveal. The Sorcerer from Trench Crusade. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If anything, if you didn't learn anything, maybe you just got pure enjoyment. But if you did, like, subscribe, and yeah, thank you for watching.